"I'll take you home," said the cowboy. After they took even the clothes from her back, the escape pod screamed through the atmosphere, its hull glowing red as friction tore at the metal. Inside, Dr. Lisa Morgan clutched the harness straps, her knuckles white. The medical bay of the transport ship had exploded 12 minutes ago. She'd watched her entire crew die through the porthole as alien raiders cut through the hull like butter. Now she was falling toward an unknown planet with nothing but the thin medical gown she'd been wearing during her shift. The pod hit hard. Lisa's head cracked against the headrest, stars exploding in her vision. Warning lights flickered and died. She fumbled with the release, finally getting it open, and stumbled out onto rust-colored sand. The twin suns overhead made her squint. Her bare feet sank into the hot ground. A shadow fell across her. Lisa looked up to see a figure on what could only be described as a mechanical horse. The rider wore a wide-brimmed hat and a duster coat that had seen better days. His face was weathered, eyes sharp behind a pair of wire-rimmed glasses that seemed out of place on the frontier world. "You picked a hell of a spot to land," he said, his voice carrying a drawl that reminded her of old Earth recordings. "Those Krelm raiders will be here in about 10 minutes. They always come back to check the pods." Lisa tried to stand straighter, acutely aware of how exposed she was. "I need help." "Yeah, I can see that." He swung down from his mount and shrugged off his duster. "Name's Jake Rivers. Put this on before you burn." She grabbed the coat, wrapping it around herself. It smelled like dust and machine oil. "Thank you. I'm Lisa, Dr. Lisa Morgan." "Well, Doc, we need to move. Now." Jake pressed something on his wrist, and the mechanical horse folded down into a compact disc. He picked it up and started walking, not looking back to see if she followed. Lisa ran after him, wincing as rocks cut her feet. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they won't find you." He led her toward a cluster of rocks that seemed to shimmer in the heat. As they got closer, she realized it wasn't heat distortion. It was a cloaking field. Behind it sat a small ship, sleek and dangerous-looking despite its battered exterior. "Get in," Jake said, hitting a button that lowered a ramp. Lisa hesitated. "How do I know I can trust you?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Recognition, understanding, rage. "Because 5 years ago, the Krelm took everything from me too," he said quietly. "Now get in the ship, Doc. I'm taking you home." The first plasma blast hit the rocks behind them. Jake grabbed her arm and ran. Lisa's feet barely touched the ramp before Jake had the ship lifting off. She fell into a seat, struggling to buckle the harness with shaking hands. Through the viewport, she could see 3 Krelm fighters descending from orbit, their weapons already charging. "Hold on," Jake said calmly, like he was commenting on the weather. The ship banked hard right, and Lisa's stomach lurched. A plasma bolt passed so close, she could see the energy ripple across their shields. Jake's hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, dancing between switches and levers that looked decades old but clearly still worked. "You could fight back," Lisa said, gripping the armrests. "Could, won't, not yet." He pulled the ship into a steep dive toward a canyon system that appeared below them. Fighting 3 Krelm cruisers in open space is suicide. Fighting them in a canyon where they can't maneuver? That's just good sense. The ship screamed into the canyon, walls of red stone blurring past on either sides. The Krelm followed, their larger ships struggling with the tight turns. Jake pushed the throttle forward, and Lisa watched the speedometer climb to numbers that made her medical training scream about what G-forces could do to the human body. One of the Krelm ships clipped a canyon wall. It exploded in a ball of green fire, debris raining down behind them. "2 left," Jake muttered. He pulled up sharply, taking them vertical along the cliff face. The remaining Krelm fighters followed, but Jake had already anticipated this. At the top of the cliff, he killed the engines and let the ship fall backward, firing thrusters only at the last second to flip them completely around. Now they were facing the Krelm head-on, falling toward them. Lisa couldn't stop the scream that tore from her throat. Jake pressed a red button on the control stick. "Sorry about this, Doc." Twin railguns extended from the ship's nose. The magnetic acceleration made the whole ship vibrate. The first Krelm fighter took a tungsten rod directly through its cockpit. The second tried to break away, but Jake was already tracking it. The shot tore through its engine core, and it spiraled into the canyon wall. Jake leveled out the ship, and suddenly they were flying smooth and level again, like nothing had happened. "You okay?" he asked, glancing at her. Lisa realized she'd been holding her breath. She let it out slowly. "Define okay." He almost smiled. "Fair enough." He turned the ship east, toward a mountain range that stretched across the horizon. "We've got about 6 hours to the nearest human settlement. You should rest." "Rest? They just killed everyone I knew." They stripped our ship for parts while we were still alive. I watched them throw people into space. Her voice cracked. How am I supposed to rest? Jake's jaw tightened. Because if you don't, you'll break. And breaking means they win. He reached over and pressed a button. A small compartment opened, revealing a medical kit. There's painkillers in there. Take 2. Your feet are bleeding all over my floor. Lisa looked down. He was right. She hadn't even felt the pain through the adrenaline. She grabbed the kit and found the pills, swallowing them dry. Why did you help me? She asked after a moment. Told you, the Krelm took everything from me. That's not an answer. Jake was quiet for a long time. The ship hummed around them. Autopilot engaged now. Finally he spoke. I was a rancher. Small operation on the outer colonies. Had a wife, 2 kids. The Krelm came for resources. They didn't care about the people. They took our equipment, our supplies, our livestock, then they took our clothes, said humans didn't deserve to own anything, made us stand there in the dirt while they laughed. His hands clenched on the controls. My wife tried to fight back. They killed her in front of me. Killed my kids, too. Then they left me alive because they said it was funnier that way. Lisa felt her throat close up. Jake, I'm so sorry. Don't be angry. He looked at her then, and she saw that rage again, burning like a cold star. They think we're weak because we show mercy, because we have laws and ethics. They think those things make us soft. He gestured at the destroyed Krellan fighters behind them. But mercy is a choice, Doc, and I can choose to stop showing it. So why are you helping me? Why not just let me die back there? Because spite is also a choice, Jake said. Every human I save, every person I get home safe, that's one less victory for them. That's one more of us who gets to live and remember and fight back someday. The mountain range grew closer. Lisa could see structures now, built into the rock faces. Defensive positions, gun emplacements, a fortress carved from stone. What is that place? New Austin, free human colony. The Krellan have tried to take it 7 times, failed every time. Jake began the landing sequence. It's not Earth, it's not even close, but it's home for a lot of people who lost everything. The ship settled onto a landing pad carved into the mountainside. Before the engines even finished powering down, people were running toward them. Humans, all of them, wearing mismatched armor and carrying weapons that ranged from cutting-edge to ancient. A woman with short red hair and a scarred face reached the ship first. She looked at Jake, then at Lisa wrapped in his duster, and her expression softened. Another one? She asked. Yeah. Lost her ship 12 miles north. Krellan Raiders. The woman nodded and turned to Lisa. I'm Kate Sullivan. Welcome to New Austin. Let's get you cleaned up and fed. She noticed Lisa's feet, and to medical. Those look nasty. Lisa found herself being guided down the ramp by gentle hands. More people surrounded her, offering blankets, water, soft words of comfort. Someone produced boots that were too big but better than nothing. Jake stayed by his ship, already checking it for damage. Kate noticed Lisa looking back. He does this a lot. Flies out to rescue pods, brings people back, never asks for anything in return. Why? Same reason we all do what we do here, Kate said, because somebody has to. The medical bay in New Austin was carved directly into the mountain, sterile white against rough stone walls. Lisa sat on an examination table while a young medic named Chris wrapped her feet in clean bandages. The cuts weren't deep, but they'd need time to heal. Dr. Morgan? A man entered the bay, tall and broad-shouldered with gray threading through his dark hair. I'm Colonel Marcus Webb. I run security here. Lisa nodded. Just Lisa is fine. Lisa, then, I need to debrief you about the attack. What can you tell me about the Krellan Raiders? She closed her eyes, seeing it all again. They came out of nowhere. We were a medical transport, clearly marked with red crosses. They didn't care. Just started cutting through the hull. They moved through the ship like they'd done it 1,000 times before. They have, Marcus said grimly. This is their new strategy. Hit soft targets, take everything valuable, leave nothing behind, not even dignity. They took our medical supplies first, Lisa continued. Then they started taking our clothes. They said humans didn't deserve to own anything, that we were just animals who'd gotten lucky enough to steal technology from our betters. Anger heated her voice. Then they started spacing people. Not shooting them, just opening airlocks and watching them die. Marcus's expression hardened. How many survived? Just me, as far as I know. I was in the medical bay when it got hit. The explosion blew me into an escape pod. Lucky. Was it? Lisa looked at her bandaged feet. Everyone I worked with is dead. My best friend, my colleagues, patients who are just trying to get home for treatment. What's lucky about that? You're alive, Marcus said simply. That's more than most people get. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Before Lisa could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the facility. Marcus swore and ran for the door. Stay here! But Lisa was already sliding off the table, ignoring Chris's protests. She followed Marcus into the corridor, where people were running in organized chaos toward defensive positions. Kate appeared, tossing Lisa a jacket. If you're gonna run around, at least wear something with pockets. What's happening? Kralin attack fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. Looks like they tracked Jake's ship here. Kate's expression was fierce. They finally found us. They reached a command center carved into the mountain's heart. Screens showed the space above the planet, where 30 Kreln warships were forming up in attack formation. Lisa's medical training tried to calculate casualties, but the numbers were too big, too horrible. Jake was already there, arguing with Marcus. "Let me take the fight to them," Jake said. "Draw them away from the colony." "That's suicide," Marcus shot back. "Even you can't take on 30 ships. I don't have to take them all. Just enough to make them chase me. And then what? You die a hero while we all wait for the next attack?" Lisa found herself speaking before she could think. What if we didn't wait? Both men turned to look at her. "What if we evacuated?" she continued. "How many ships do you have here?" Marcus frowned. "Maybe 15 that can make orbit. But where would we go?" "Anywhere but here. Scatter the fleet? Make them choose targets. They can't chase everyone." Lisa's mind was racing now, falling into the pattern of triage she'd learned in medical school. Save who you can, accept who you can't. How many people? 1,200 in the colony, Kate said. Can we fit them all? Tight, but yes, Marcus said slowly. But this is our home. We've held it for 3 years. And you'll hold it again, Lisa said. But not today. Today you survive. Jake was watching her with an odd expression. You think like a soldier, Doc. I think like a doctor. Triage. Save who you can, when you can, how you can. Marcus made his decision. Alert everyone. Full evacuation in 30 minutes. Combat-capable ships form a defensive screen. Everyone else runs. The colony exploded into motion. Lisa found herself swept along, helping load medical supplies onto ships, carrying children who were too young to understand what was happening, holding the hands of elderly colonists who'd seen too many evacuations already. Jake appeared beside her, carrying a crate of ammunition. You should get on the first ship out. I'm a doctor. I go on the last ship. Stubborn, practical, he actually smiled then, quick and fierce. Knew I liked you. The Krelm fleet began its descent. Lisa could see them through the mountain's viewing ports. Ships like dark knives cutting through the atmosphere. Plasma fire lit up the sky as New Austin's defense batteries opened up. Jake grabbed her arm. Time to go. Now. They ran for his ship, the last one still on the pad. Around them, the mountain shook as Krellan bombardment began. Chunks of rock fell from the ceiling. Someone screamed. Jake shoved Lisa up the ramp and turned back. Jake! He was running toward a collapsed section of corridor. Lisa could see a hand sticking out from under the rubble, small and pale. A child's hand. No time, she heard herself say, even as she hated the words. But Jake was already digging, pulling rocks aside with his bare hands. Marcus appeared beside him, then Kate, then others. Together they lifted a massive stone slab. A little girl emerged, crying and covered in dust. Her mother grabbed her, sobbing thanks. Now we go, Jake said, breathing hard. They made it to the ship just as a Krellan fighter strafed the landing pad. Jake's ship took a glancing blow, alarms screaming, but the engines fired. They lifted off through a rain of debris and weapons fire. Lisa looked back at New Austin as they climbed. The mountain was burning, defensive positions overrun, but the sky was full of human ships, scattering in every direction like seeds on the wind. Did everyone make it? She asked. Jake checked his scanners. 15 ships accounted for. That's all of them. Where do we go now? He set course for the outer system. I know a place. Humans only. Far from Kreln space. It's rough, but it's safe. Lisa nodded and then noticed his hands. They were bleeding, torn up from moving the rocks. Without thinking, she grabbed the medical kit and started cleaning them. You didn't have to save that girl, she said quietly. Yeah, I did. Why? Jake looked at her, and in his eyes, she saw grief and hope warring. Because if I stop saving people, then I'm just like them, and I'd rather die human than live as a monster. The ship called Dusty May wasn't much to look at, but it had gotten them through 6 hyperspace jumps without breaking down. Lisa had learned to move through its cramped corridors without hitting her head, had memorized which panels to avoid touching because they ran hot, had even started to think of the small sleeping nook as something close to home. Jake piloted them through the Vega asteroid field, weaving between rocks the size of cities. Other ships dotted the darkness, all human, all refugees or rebels or both. This is Freehaven, Jake said as they approached the largest asteroid. Lisa could see docking bays cut into the rock, lights twinkling like stars, started 5 years ago by survivors, Now it's got maybe 10,000 people. 10,000? How is that possible? Word spreads, people help people. Someone gets rescued, they tell someone else. That person tells 10 more. Pretty soon you've got a whole network. He guided the ship into a docking bay. It's not Earth. It's not even close. But it's something. The docking bay was massive, filled with ships of every configuration. Lisa saw military vessels stripped of their government markings, civilian transports converted to carry weapons, even what looked like an old colony ship being refitted as a mobile fortress. As they disembarked, a woman approached. She was older, maybe 60, with silver hair tied back and eyes that had seen too much. She wore a simple jumpsuit with a patch that read Administrator Chen. "Jake Rivers," she said warmly, "when you going to join us permanently instead of just dropping off refugees?" "When the Crown stop making refugees," Jake replied. He gestured to Lisa. "This is Dr. Lisa Morgan. Lost her ship to raiders 2 weeks ago." Administrator Chen's expression softened. "Welcome to Freehaven, Doctor. We could use your skills. Our medical facilities are stretched thin." "I'll help however I can," Lisa said. "Good. Chris will show you to quarters in the hospital." Chen turned back to Jake. "We need to talk. Council chambers, 1 hour." Jake nodded, and Chen walked away, already speaking into a communicator about supply manifests and defense rotations. A young man appeared, different from the medic Chris back at New Austin. This Chris was tall and gangly with enthusiastic energy. "Dr. Morgan, I'm Chris Lee, senior medical technician. Let me show you around." As they walked through Freehaven's corridors, Lisa was struck by how alive the place felt. Children played in common areas, supervised by watchful adults. Markets had sprung up in wider sections of tunnel, people trading goods and services. Someone was teaching a class on hydroponics. Someone else was repairing a solar panel array. "We're self-sufficient for the most part," Chris explained. "Grow our own food, recycle our own water, manufacture basic supplies. The council coordinates everything." "And the Krelm? Do they know about this place?" Chris's expression darkened. "They know. They just haven't found it yet. The asteroid field provides natural cover, and we've got some tech geniuses who've rigged up stealth systems. But it's only a matter of time." The hospital was a revelation. Clean, organized, equipped with technology that rivaled anything Lisa had seen on Core Worlds. Patients filled the beds, mostly humans, but she spotted a few other species too. "We treat anyone who needs help," Chris said. "Even former enemies if they're willing to live in peace." Lisa saw a Thalen in one bed, its blue skin marked with scars. The Thalen were supposed to be Kreln allies, but this one looked grateful for the care it was receiving. "Dr. Morgan?" A woman in medical scrubs approached. "I'm Dr. Amanda Price. I run this facility." "Chris says you're certified in trauma surgery?" "Yes, and emergency medicine." Amanda's relief was visible. "Thank God. We've got 3 surgeries scheduled for tomorrow, and I'm the only qualified surgeon we have. Can you start immediately?" Lisa looked down at herself. She was wearing borrowed clothes, had barely slept in 2 weeks, was still processing the trauma of losing everything. The smart thing would be to rest, to recover, to give herself time. But she thought of Jake digging through rubble to save a child, thought of the people on the dusty May who'd shared their food with her, thought of everyone in Freehaven who'd lost something but kept fighting anyway. "Show me the surgical bay," Lisa said. 6 months passed like a fever dream. Lisa operated on miners injured in tunnel collapses, treated children sick with space-borne viruses, saved lives every single day. She fell into bed exhausted each night and woke before her alarm each morning. Jake came and went, always bringing more refugees, always leaving again before he could really settle. Lisa found herself watching for his ship, listening for his name on the comm channels, feeling something tighten in her chest when he was gone too long. They'd stolen moments between his arrivals and departures. Conversations over terrible synthesized coffee. Walks through the asteroid's observation domes, looking at stars. Once, she'd operated on a patient while Jake assisted, his steady hands following her instructions perfectly. Afterwards, she'd asked where he'd learned field medicine. "Necessity," he'd said. "You save enough people, you pick up skills." Now Lisa stood in the observation dome alone, watching ships come and go. A call had just come in, Kreln attack on a human mining colony in the Ross sector. Estimated 40 survivors, scattered across 3 moons. It would take at least 4 rescue ships to get them all. Jake would volunteer. He always did. She heard boots on the metal floor and didn't have to turn around to know it was him. "You're going," she said. "Yeah, it's a trap. They're baiting you." "Probably." Lisa turned to face him. "Then don't go." Jake met her eyes, and she saw that familiar determination. 40 people, Lisa. 40 humans who need help. "I can't just leave them. You could die. Maybe, but at least I'd die trying." He reached out, hesitated, then gently took her hand. I've been dying slowly for 5 years. Maybe it's time I did something worth the risk. That's not fair, Lisa said, her voice breaking. You can't make me care about you and then throw your life away. I'm not throwing it away, I'm spending it. Jake squeezed her hand. Every person I save, that's my wife and kids getting justice. That's me being the man they would have wanted me to be. And what about being the man I want you to be? The words hung between them. Jake's expression shifted, surprise and hope and fear all mixed together. Doc, I lost everything too, Lisa said. Everyone I cared about, gone. I thought I'd never feel anything again except anger and pain. But then you showed up with your stupid cowboy hat and your broken ship and your absolute refusal to give up, and somehow you made me want to try again. She stepped closer. So don't you dare go on a suicide mission and leave me here alone. Jake pulled her close, and Lisa let herself collapse into him, breathing in the smell of machine oil and determination. Come with me, he said quietly. She pulled back to look at him. What? Come with me. The rescue mission needs medical support anyway. We bring the survivors back together. It was crazy, dangerous, exactly the kind of impulsive decision that got people killed. Okay, Lisa said. 20 minutes later, they were on the Dusty May, joined by 3 other ships, Kate commanded. One, a grizzled veteran named Sam, commanded another, and a young pilot called Danny took the third. 4 ships, against whatever Krellin forces were waiting. The Ross sector was 8 hours at maximum burn. Lisa spent the time prepping medical supplies and trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Jake flew with quiet concentration, his hands steady on the controls. You scared? He asked during hour 6. Terrified, Lisa admitted. You? Always am. Fear keeps you sharp. He glanced at her. But I'm glad you're here. Even if I slow you down? You won't. You've got the same fire I do. The same refusal to quit. He smiled slightly. Besides, somebody needs to patch me up when I do something stupid. They dropped out of hyperspace near the first moon. Immediately, alarms screamed. 3 Krellin cruisers were in orbit, and they'd already detected the human ships. So much for stealth, Kate's voice crackled over the comm. Danny, Sam, you're with me. We'll draw them off. Jake, Lisa, get to the surface and find those survivors. Kate, that's 3 on 3, Jake protested. We've had worse odds. Go! Jake dove toward the moon's surface while the other 3 ships angled toward the Krellin. Lisa watched through the viewport as plasma fire lit up space. One of the Krellin cruisers broke away to follow them. Hold on, Jake said. He took them into the moon's atmosphere at a steep angle, using the friction and gravity to build speed. The Krellin cruiser followed but struggled with the denser air. Jake pulled up hard at the last second, skimming over a mountain range. The Krellin ship, less maneuverable, clipped a peak and crashed. One down, Jake muttered. Now let's find our people. The distress beacon led them to a crashed mining ship in a canyon. Lisa could see figures moving around it, taking cover behind debris. As the Dusty May descended, weapons fire erupted from the canyon walls. Krail ground forces, Jake said. They're using the survivors as bait. Can we land? Not safely. But when did we ever do things safely? He brought the ship down hard, landing gear screeching. Get ready to move fast. The ramp dropped and Lisa ran out with medical supplies. The survivors were in bad shape, injuries ranging from broken bones to plasma burns. She started triaging immediately, calling out who needed to be moved first. Jake provided covering fire, his rifle barking as Krellin soldiers advanced. One got close, and he switched to a knife, moving with brutal efficiency. Lisa had seen him fight before, but never like this. He was protecting his people, and nothing would stop him. Lisa, incoming, Kate's voice over the comm. Lisa looked up to see a Krellin dropship descending. More soldiers, too many to fight. They were going to be overrun. Then the sky exploded with light. Human ships appeared from nowhere, at least 20 of them. The evacuation fleet from New Austin, reinforced by vessels from Freehaven. They tore into the Krellin positions with coordinated precision. Marcus's voice came over all channels. Nobody abandons family. Get our people loaded up. Lisa wanted to cry, wanted to cheer, wanted to collapse with relief. Instead, she kept working, stabilizing patients, getting them onto ships. Jake appeared beside her, helping lift a man with 2 broken legs. Family, he said, looking at the sky full of human ships. We're building something real here. Yeah, Lisa agreed. We are. They got everyone off the moon. All 40 survivors. Saved. The cost was high, though. Danny's ship took critical damage and barely made it to hyperspace. Sam lost an engine. Kate's ship was shot to hell but still flying. And as they jumped away from Ross Sector, heading for Freehaven, Lisa realized something had changed. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was resistance. This was humanity refusing to die quietly. Freehaven's hospital was chaos for 3 days straight. Lisa operated until her hands shook, then kept operating. The 40 survivors were joined by wounded from the battle. Some would make it. Some wouldn't. Lisa saved who she could and mourned who she couldn't. On the 4th day, she finally allowed herself to sleep for more than 4 hours. She woke in her small quarters to find Jake sitting in the corner, cleaning his rifle. "How long have you been there?" she asked. "Couple hours. Wanted to make sure you actually rested." Lisa sat up, wincing at sore muscles. "How bad was it?" "The final count? 7 dead. 15 critical but stable. Everyone else will make it." Jake set the rifle aside. "You saved a lot of lives, Doc." "We all did." She noticed bandages on his arms. "What happened to you?" "Nothing much. Plasma graze. Already healing." "Let me see." He tried to wave her off, but Lisa was already moving. She unwrapped the bandages and swore. The burns were deep, infected. "This is not nothing. Why didn't you come to medical?" "Been busy." "Jake, I'm fine." "You're an idiot." She grabbed supplies and started cleaning the wounds properly. Jake hissed but didn't pull away. As she worked, Lisa felt anger building. "You can't keep doing this, pushing yourself until you break, taking every risk, acting like your life doesn't matter." "My life does matter," Jake said quietly. "That's why I use it for something important." "And what about the people who care about you? Do we not matter?" He looked at her then. Really looked at her. "You matter more than you know." Lisa's hands stilled. "Then stop trying to die." "I'm not trying to die. I'm trying to live in a way that means something." He reached up, gently taking one of her hands. "But maybe I've been going about it wrong. Maybe staying alive matters too, if there's someone worth staying alive for." Her breath caught. "Jake." The comm system crackled to life. "All senior personnel to the council chambers. Immediate." They looked at each other. The moment broken but not forgotten. The council chambers were packed. Administrator Chen stood at the front with Marcus, Kate, and several others Lisa didn't recognize. Maps of local space covered the walls, marked with red zones where Krelm controlled territory. "We've got a problem," Chen said without preamble. "Intelligence suggests the Krelm are planning a major offensive. They're consolidating forces, pulling ships from across their empire. Target appears to be human refugee networks." "How major?" someone asked. "Conservative estimates put it at 200 warships, possibly more." Chen's expression was grim. "They're done with small raids. They want to end us." The room erupted in worried conversation. Lisa felt her stomach drop. 200 ships. Freehaven had maybe 30 combat-capable vessels. Even with other refugee fleets, they'd be outnumbered 10 to 1. Jake stood up. "Then we don't fight them head-on. We fight smart." "Elaborate," Chen said. "The Krelm think we're scattered and weak. They're right that we're scattered, but that's a strength, not a weakness. We're not one target. We're dozens, hundreds, all across space." Jake moved to the map, pointing to different sectors. "They can't hit us all at once, so we make them chase ghosts. Hit and run, supply raids, ambushes, make every kilometer they travel cost them. A guerrilla campaign," Marcus said thoughtfully. "Keep them off balance, bleed them slowly." "Exactly. We can't beat them in a straight fight, so we don't fight straight." Jake looked around the room. "But it means giving up on fixed positions. No more places like New Austin or Freehaven. We become nomadic, always moving, never an easy target." "That's asking a lot," someone protested. "People need stability, homes, safety. The Krelm are offering them death." Jake shot back. "I'm offering survival. It's not ideal, but it's what we've got." Debate raged for hours. Lisa listened, watched, and slowly understood what Jake had known all along. This wasn't about winning. It was about refusing to lose, about making the cost of destroying humanity so high that even the Krelm would eventually decide it wasn't worth it. Finally, Chen called for a vote. The result was close, but the decision was made. Freehaven would disperse. The refugee networks would go mobile. Humanity would become a ghost, haunting the Krelm at every turn. Preparations began immediately. Ships were loaded with essential supplies and equipment. Non-combat vessels were outfitted with weapons. People who'd spent months making Freehaven home-packed everything up again. Lisa found herself in the hospital, coordinating the evacuation of patients and medical equipment. It was heartbreaking work. Some patients couldn't be moved safely. They'd have to stay behind in a skeleton crew facility, hoping the Krelm wouldn't find them. She was organizing surgical supplies when Administrator Chen approached. "Dr. Morgan, I need to ask you something," Chen said. "I'm assembling a mobile command ship, flagship for the fleet. It needs a chief medical officer." Lisa paused. "You're offering me the position? You're qualified, you're trusted, and you understand what we're fighting for. Plus, you've got Jake's respect, which counts for a lot around here." Chen smiled slightly. He's going to be our primary scout and raider. Having you on the command ship means he'll actually check in regularly instead of disappearing for weeks. That's surprisingly manipulative. I prefer strategically practical. Will you take the job? Lisa thought about her old life, the medical transport that felt like a lifetime ago. Thought about the person she'd been, the person she was becoming. Yes, I'll take it. Good. We launch in 48 hours. The command ship was called the Phoenix because, of course, it was. Lisa had her own medical bay, a staff of 6, and enough supplies to run a small hospital. Her quarters were larger than anywhere she'd lived since the academy, with actual windows showing the asteroid field slowly receding as they departed Freehaven. Jake's ship flew escort, along with 30 others. The full fleet numbered over 100 vessels now, civilian and military mixed together. They'd picked up stragglers during the evacuation, people who'd heard about the dispersal and decided to join rather than stay isolated. Lisa was in medical, training her new staff on combat triage procedures, when the first call came in. Medical to the bridge. We've got incoming wounded. She ran, her team following. On the bridge, Marcus was coordinating with multiple ships at once. A small human colony had been hit by Krelm raiders. The colonists had fought back, but casualties were high. ETA 15 minutes, Marcus reported. 30 wounded, 10 critical. Lisa started giving orders, her team moving with practiced efficiency. When the wounded arrived, she fell into the familiar rhythm of emergency medicine. Assess, prioritize, treat. The worst cases first, stable patients could wait. One of the critical patients was a young girl, maybe 12, with plasma burns across her chest. Lisa worked on her for 2 hours, fighting to keep her stable. The girl's mother stood in the corner, silent tears streaming down her face. Finally, Lisa stepped back. The monitors showed stable vitals. The girl would live. The mother grabbed Lisa's hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're not out of the woods yet, Lisa cautioned, but she's strong. She'll make it. After the mother left, Lisa allowed herself a moment. She leaned against the wall, exhausted, and found herself thinking about what Jake had said. Every person saved was a victory. Every life preserved was an act of defiance. She was still there when Jake appeared, having docked while she was in surgery. Heard you had a busy day, he said. Saved a girl's life. Lost 2 adults. It's never enough. Never is. He stood beside her, close but not touching. But you did good. They stayed like that for a while, just being present together. Finally, Lisa spoke. I'm scared, Jake. Not of dying. I've made peace with that. But of losing. Of fighting and still watching humanity get wiped out. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. How? We're outnumbered, outgunned, scattered across space. How do we actually win this? Jake considered the question seriously. We don't. Not in the traditional sense. We can't beat the Krell Empire in a war of conquest, but we can make them regret starting this fight. We can make every attack cost them more than they gain. We can survive long enough that other species notice, that allies emerge, that the political situation changes. He looked at her. We buy time, and we hope that time is enough. That's a hell of a long game. Yeah? But it's the only game we've got. An alarm sounded. Marcus's voice over the comm. Crayon patrol detected. 3 light cruisers heading our way. Jake was already moving. Time to go to work. Lisa grabbed his arm. Be careful. He smiled. Quick and warm. Always am. You should know that by now. He kissed her then, brief but intense, and was gone before she could respond. Lisa stood frozen for a moment, her lips still tingling, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. She ran to the bridge in time to see Jake's ship and 5 others break away from the fleet. The Krelm cruisers altered course to intercept, just as Jake had known they would. He led them on a chase through the asteroid field while the main fleet slipped away in the opposite direction. He's insane, Marcus muttered, watching the tactical display. He's effective, Lisa countered. They watched Jake's ship dodge and weave through massive rocks, the Krell cruisers struggling to keep up. Then he did something Lisa had seen before but still made her gasp. He flew straight at the largest asteroid, engines at maximum, and didn't veer off until the last possible second. 2 of the Krelm cruisers couldn't turn in time. They crashed into the rock, explosions blossoming in silent space. The 3rd cruiser broke off pursuit, damaged and limping. Jake's ship circled back, linking up with the fleet 20 minutes later. When he arrived on the bridge, Lisa punched his shoulder. What was that for? He asked. For scaring me, again. It worked, didn't it? That's not the point. Marcus cleared his throat. As entertaining as this is, we've got a bigger problem. Long-range sensors just picked up the Krelm main fleet. They're moving faster than anticipated. ETA to this sector is 3 days. 3 days. Lisa felt her stomach sink. They'd hoped for weeks, maybe months. 3 days meant they'd barely have time to prepare. Then we'd better get creative, Jake said. Because if they catch us scattered, we're done. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation and planning. The fleet consolidated in a nebula that provided natural sensor cover. Civilian ships were moved to the center, protected by a shell of military vessels. Mines were laid in likely approach vectors. Every combat-capable ship was armed and ready. Lisa worked around the clock, setting up triage stations on multiple ships, stockpiling medical supplies, training civilians in basic first aid. If the Krell broke through, the casualties would be catastrophic. She needed to be ready. On the third day, the Krell arrived. Lisa watched from the Phoenix's bridge as 200 warships emerged from hyperspace like sharks smelling blood. They were massive, dwarfing the human fleet. Their formation was perfect, showing discipline and experience that made her heart sink. Well, Marcus said quietly, this is it. The Krell commander broadcast on all frequencies. The translation came through cold and mechanical, human vessels. You are ordered to surrender. Power down your ships and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with immediate execution. Jake's voice came over the command channel. Phoenix, this is Dusty May. Permission to respond? Marcus looked at Chen, who nodded. Granted. Jake's response went out on all frequencies. Krellin Commander, this is Jake Rivers of the Free Human Fleet. We've got a counteroffer. Turn around, go home, and we won't have to embarrass you in front of your entire navy. There was a pause. Then the Krellin Commander laughed, a harsh grating sound. Brave words from dead men. Attack. The Krellin fleet surged forward. The human ships opened fire, missiles and railguns, and plasma all at once. The nebula lit up with weapons fire. Ships exploded on both sides. Lisa's medical bay filled immediately. She operated on autopilot, her hands moving while her mind stayed detached. Cut here, suture there, stabilize, and move to the next. The wounded kept coming. On the bridge, Marcus coordinated the defense with fierce concentration. The human ships were faster, more maneuverable, using the nebula's particles to confuse Krellin sensors. But there were just so many of them. Phoenix, we've lost the Guardian, someone reported. 40 crew aboard. Northern flank is collapsing. Ammunition down to 30%. Lisa heard it all while she worked, each report like a hammer blow. They were losing. Slowly but steadily, the Krellin were overwhelming them. Then Jake's voice cut through the chaos. All ships, new orders. Execute scatter pattern Delta. I'm going in. Jake, no! Lisa shouted, but he couldn't hear her from medical. On the tactical display, she watched his ship break formation and accelerate toward the Krellin flagship. Alone. He was going to ram it. Marcus realized at the same moment. Get me a channel to Dusty May. Now. But Jake had already cut communications. His ship was a bright dot on the screen, growing smaller as it approached the massive Krellin warship. Defensive fire erupted around him, but he dodged with impossible skill. Then, at the last second, he released something from his cargo bay. Lisa watched as dozens of objects tumbled toward the Krellin flagship. They looked like cargo containers. The containers exploded simultaneously, but not with conventional weapons. Instead, they released electromagnetic pulses that rippled across the Krellin ship. Its lights flickered and died. The massive warship went dark, dead in space. Jake pulled up hard, engines screaming, and shot past the disabled flagship. His voice came back over the comm, breathless and exhilarated. That's for taking my family. Now let's take the rest. The human fleet rallied, seeing their enemy's flagship helpless. They poured fire into the disabled ship while other Krellin vessels broke formation, unsure whether to protect their commander or continue the assault. That moment of confusion was all the humans needed. The scatter pattern executed perfectly, ships breaking into small groups and vanishing into the nebula's depths. The Krellin tried to follow, but the nebula's interference made tracking impossible. By the time it was over, the human fleet had scattered across 100 different vectors. The Krellin had destroyed maybe 10 ships, but the rest escaped, and they'd left the Krellin flagship burning, its commander probably dead. The Phoenix rendezvoused with Jake's ship 6 hours later. When he came aboard, Lisa was waiting. She grabbed him and held on tight, not caring who was watching. Don't ever do that again, she said into his chest. Can't promise that. Then promise you'll come back. That I can do. He pulled back to look at her. We did it, Doc. We actually hurt them. We also lost people, good people. I know, and we'll remember them, but we also proved something today. We proved that humans don't quit. No matter how bad the odds, we keep fighting. Lisa thought about the patients she'd saved, the ones she'd lost, thought about the girl with plasma burns who'd lived to see another day, thought about a fleet of refugees who'd stood against an empire and survived. What happens now? She asked. Now we regroup, rest, heal, and then we do it again. Jake smiled, tired but genuine. They wanted to end us in one battle. Instead, we're going to make this a war. A long, bloody, expensive war that they'll wish they'd never started. That could take years. Probably, maybe decades. He took her hand. But at least we'll face it together. Lisa squeezed his hand back, feeling something settle in her chest. Not quite hope, not yet. But the possibility of hope. The chance that maybe, just maybe, humanity would survive this. Together, she agreed. I'll take you home, Jake Rivers. Wherever that ends up being. He laughed, pulling her close again. Home is right here, Lisa Morden. Has been since the day I found you in the desert. Around them, the Phoenix hummed with life. Crew members worked to repair damage, coordinate with scattered fleet elements, tend to wounded. The fight was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. But for the first time since the Krelln had taken everything from her, Lisa felt like she belonged somewhere. Not just to a place, but to a purpose. To a people who refused to give up. To a man who'd promised to take her home, and had kept that promise in ways neither of them expected. The war would continue. People would die. There would be losses and grief and moments of despair. But there would also be victories, small and large. There would be lives saved and families reunited and children born into a universe worth fighting for. Lisa looked at Jake, saw her own determination reflected in his eyes, and knew they'd face it all together. The cowboy who'd saved her when she had nothing. The doctor who'd reminded him why saving people mattered. Together, they'd take humanity home. However long it took, whatever it cost, they'd make sure their people survived. Because that's what humans did. They endured. They adapted. They refused to quit. And sometimes, in the darkest moments, they found love in the most unexpected places. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and cold and full of enemies, but also full of allies, possibilities, and hope. It was enough. It had to be enough. And somehow, Lisa knew it would be.